गुड आफ्टरनून एवरीबॉडी। जगदीश जी, मैं आज सुबह 6:30 बजे घर निकला दिल्ली से और फ्लाइट में मतलब दो जो मेन्यू कार्ड आपको देते हैं उसमें लिखा था कि वो इडली है। जब मैं खाया इडली जैसा नहीं था, पर इडली मान के मैं खाया क्योंकि लिख के दिया था। उस टाइप का ब्रेकफास्ट करके मैं आया था। सुबह से हमारे विक्रांत भाई ने मुझे अभी तक सांस भी लेने के लिए समय नहीं दिया है। इसके बावजूद भी आप सबको देख के मुझे इतना ऊर्जा प्राप्त हुई है। मैं आप सब से रिक्वेस्ट कर रहा हूँ उसी ऊर्जा के साथ। The reason why I gave this context is because we, as well as avenues for national contribution in the years to come. The next 25 years is an extremely important period in the life of all of us sitting here. Because all of us together are going to be those sculptors who will craft the destiny of this nation and through that impact the destiny of the world. That is the momentous period in history that all of us are sitting in today. But we arrived at this point in history after a lot of struggle, lot of sacrifice by thousands and lakhs of people. मैं आप सब से निवेदन करता हूं, आप जब भी आपको समय मिलेगा या समय निकाल कर आप भारत के स्वतंत्रता संग्राम के जो इतिहास है इसको आप जरूर पढ़ें। बिकॉज इन दैट यू विल फाइंड स्टोरीज ऑफ इंस्पिरेशन, स्ट्रगल, स्टोरीज ऑफ करेज, ऑफ कन्विक्शन, which will help us mold our lives, which will help us arrive at the purpose of what we want to do while we exist on this earth. And friends, remember that we did not get independence free. मुफ्त से independence, स्वतंत्रता नहीं मिला. We had to pay, our forefathers had to pay a very, very, very costly price. And especially because I am today here in Maharashtra and in Pune, I want to request all of you. The very first thing that we must do to understand where we come from, who we are. Because identity is not just the ID card that your college has issued you. Identity is not just the Aadhaar card that the government has issued us. When somebody asks you what your identity is, we generally tend to think our identity मतलब वो वोटर कार्ड हो सकता है जिसमें हम सबका फोटो इतना खराब आता है, और we think it is our आधार कार्ड, we think college issued ID card. Identity वो नहीं है. Identity is what we have inherited, what makes us who we are today. This is the great grand land of Maharashtra, which is the Gangotri of freedom struggle, starting from the days of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj to Bal Gangadhar Tilak to Veer Savarkar to Ambedkar. This is the land which gave India the message of social reform, social equality. Mahatma Phule ka dharti hai. This is also the land which has been at the forefront of bringing great modern progressive reforms, whether it is women education, whether it is universal suffrage, all of these concepts. If we are not aware of this hoary history, then we are not aware of our identity. So my request to you is, during Azadi Ka Amrut Mahotsav, starting this year from the 15th of August, can we all resolve that we are going to make every week at least 1 hour a very sincere effort to understand who we are, our identity. What does it mean to be a Maratha in India? What does it mean to be a Maharashtrian in India? What has been the contribution of our forefathers who lived, breathed, and walked this land? Can we do that? 1 hour every week. Now I want to ask all of you. I'm sure many of you have read and have imbibed a lot of these qualities. The Indian freedom struggle has also been a great stage where women of exemplary character and caliber led India in the most difficult of times. Can we, I expect you now, to give me names of the women freedom fighters, great men from our Indian history who contributed to India's Azadi Ka Andolan. Let's start. Let's go here. Let's see how many names we can put together. Yeah. Rani Lakshmi Bai, Sarojini Naidu, Savitri Bhai Phule. Then louder. राजमाते, जीजा माते, और अहिल्या बाई होलकर, कस्तूरबा गांधी, मदर तेरेसा. नेक्स्ट. फ्रीडम स्ट्रगल यार, कल्पना चावला कहां से आया? हाँ, नेक्स्ट, कम ऑन, लेट्स. नेक्स्ट. सावित्री बाई फुले रिपीट हो रहा है. थैंक गॉड आप सोनिया गांधी नहीं बोली. नेक्स्ट. एनी अदर नेम्स? Ramabai Ranade, Anandibai Joshi, then Fatima Sheikh. So the point is, Kul Milake we couldn't come to 20, right? But then there are so many who gave their entire life. It was, whether it is Rani Abbakka, Rani Chennamma, in Karnataka, where I come from, Jhansi Rani Lakshmi Bai. If you Annie Besant, Sister Nivedita, if you come from Jammu Kashmir to Kanyakumari, Gujarat to Arunachal Pradesh, you will find that in every state, women of exemplary character and leadership, they were at the very forefront of Indian freedom struggle. Because they sacrificed then is why we enjoy our freedom today. My request to you friends is this. Can all of you, now we have resolved to read. 2, Pradhan Mantri ji has requested educational institutions, especially the ones which have a large proportion of women students, to organize essay writing competitions on freedom fighters, women freedom fighters from the freedom movement era. My request to all of you and also the college management is, from Yuva Morcha, Vikrant Bhai, Shivani ji, everybody will support you. Can we organize in this month? We will give you 15-20 days of notice. अभी से आप पढ़ाई शुरू कर दीजिए, आपका research शुरू कर दीजिए. In the first week of September, Vikrant Bhai, we will organize a competition here, where all of you will write a 1,000-word essay. And those who can speak will do a 5-minute speech on the contribution of women in India's freedom struggle. Can we do this? Yes. 100%? Yes. And the ones who will win this competition will get special awards and appreciation from the party's national president JP Nadda, and I myself will hand over these gifts and awards to all of you. Will you promise me to do this seriously? The reason, my dear friends, is in their life we will find great inspiration. Inspiration as to how we must lead our lives today. I just want to, before we break to questions, I just want to tell you 2-3 things. Friends, in the last 1 year, I have got the opportunity of visiting different parts of the country as a part of my role as the national president of the BJP. My experience has been extremely phenomenal. This nation is a sacred land. The more you try to understand India, the more it leaves you amazed at its incredible diversity, its inherent cultural unity, the vibrancy of the people, the great languages, the colorful clothes, the personalities, the people. Every 100 kilometers you find a different dialect. Every 150 kilometers you find a different type of khana, pana, the entire culture. You find different colors. You find different types of temples. You find thousands of different types of gods, goddesses. But sometimes I always feel that how little we know of this nation. I was interacting with a few young friends of mine from Israel. Once they complete their graduation, you may have met many Israelis roaming, in different parts of India. They would have come to Hampi, they would have come to different parts of Maharashtra, some will, in Himachal, others. They always have this practice of taking 1 year as a gap year. And what they do in that 1 year is the first few months they travel all across Israel, trying to understand the city, the country. The next few months, because Israel is a very small nation, they can cover it in 3-4 months. The remaining time they go outside and try to visit different parts of the world, and India is one of their favorite destinations. But unfortunately, in the rat race that all of us are, that 10th standard important hai, so wahan hum kare, then 12th, then degree, then this thing. So we are in a rat race where we just do not understand where we are living. And trust me, in the last 1 year, after having traveled all across the country, I have grown tremendously as a person. Maybe the experience which I could never have gotten by reading 1,000 books. So my request to you is, when you are young, when God has given you the energy, the physical energy to travel, please make it a point to travel all across India. That is the only way you can understand and imbibe the spirit of being a Bharatiya in the true sense. So this year, today I came here to visit Tilakwada, which is the Karma Bhumi of Bal Gangadhar Tilak. How many amongst you have visited Tilakwada here? That's all? Okay. My request to you is this. We spend so much of our time, in cafes, in canteens, in going on night drives and so many other things. This one time, let's make one group activity during the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. In the next 1 year, can you visit 3 places associated with India's freedom struggle? And start with Tilakwada, because it's just right here. And Bal Gangadhar Tilak was such a towering person in the India's history. He gave us the idea that India needs to be completely and totally independent. He gave the call of Swaraj is my birthright and I shall have it. It may not mean anything to us today, in today's 75 after independence. But in 1800s, the very sentence Swaraj is my birthright and I shall have it was considered seditious. Just a few hours from here is the birthplace of Savarkar. A few hours from here is the birthplace of Baba Saheb Ambedkar. Can we visit 3 places at least in this year as part of a Tirth Yatra to understand how these great personalities shaped India and why we are today what we are? Can you do that? Only 3 places. If you want to do more, great, but minimum 3 places. Will you give me that promise? Go with your friends, take your family. It can even be a great vacation. Go to the Andamans. See the cellular jail. Understand what kind of physical torture that Savarkar and others, the same people who come from the same land, he was transported all the way to Andamans. What physical distress he endured. It's only when you go there and see the cells is when you will understand what these people went through. So whether it is Andamans, whether it is Jallianwala Bagh, whether it is Tilakwada, whether it is, all across the country, there are hundreds of such places. Just like how we go and visit temples as part of Tirth Yatra, this year, can we visit at least 3 Tirtha Kshetra which is associated with Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav? Kar sakte? I have only one other request with you, friends. We have generally been fed this idea that Indian culture, Hindu culture has always not given women its due, and that women and Matra Shakti and Stri Shakti in some way has been repressed in the Hindu culture. My request to all of you is this. Please try to understand and read. There may have been 100 misgivings, there may have been, due to social circumstances, economic circumstances, unforgivable things that we may have done. But as a society, as a civilization, no civilization in the world, I will repeat this and underline this, no civilization in the world has given such an exalted position for women as the Bharatiya Sanskriti has done. It is not from today, but from the time the civilization began. Every walk of life. If you go back to the times of Rig Veda, you will find numerous examples of women scholars debating. You will find great women artisans and sculptors. And continuing that tradition today, like Shivani ji mentioned, the country's first citizen is a woman who comes from an extremely backward tribal family, a self-made woman who is leading the country today, Draupadi Murmu ji. It's a tradition that we have continued. I was just seeing the Commonwealth Games medal tally, and it's a matter of great pride, friends, that an overwhelming number of women are the ones who have brought medals to India. Of the medalists, an overwhelming number are women medalists. Whether it is entrepreneurship, whether it is games, whether it is industry, whether it is teaching, whether it is academia, it is politics. In every aspect, women are leading from front today. And the next 25 years is for you to make the best use of. I just want to give you one example as to how women representation and women leadership plays a very vital role. I'll give a very personal example that we felt just a couple of weeks ago. A couple of weeks ago, we from the Yuva Morcha organized a program in Kashmir. So from Lal Chowk in Kashmir, we went on bikes to Kargil. It was the first time after 30 years that we hoisted the national flag in Srinagar in Kashmir. It happened because Prime Minister Narendra Modi ensured Article 370 was abrogated. So we went to from Kashmir to Kargil on bikes. We were more than 200 of us. And we were coming back from Kargil to Kashmir. There is a place called Sonmarg which is on the way. And we were supposed to reach Sonmarg by 6 p.m. Because of the traffic jam that happened in a point called Zero Point, which is the border between Ladakh and Kashmir, we got delayed by an hour. So the protocol in Kashmir is that after 6 p.m., due to safety reasons, they do not allow vehicles to cross Sonmarg and go into Kashmir. We got delayed by an hour. We were supposed to reach Srinagar for the night. But then we were delayed by an hour, so it was almost 7:15 by the time we reached Sonmarg. I was trying to frantically call officers, the lieutenant governor, everybody to allow us to cross. You know, they have barricades, so they just don't allow you to cross. So we were requesting permission, special permission to cross from Sonmarg to Srinagar. But then the police advised us that it is not advisable due to the security concerns to go late in the night, and they asked us to just stay back in Sonmarg. So we were 200 of us. We had no accommodation because we had planned accommodation in Srinagar, not in Sonmarg. Everybody has been on the bike for almost 7-8 hours. Everyone is hungry, tired. We have no place to stay, nor we have good food. Then I called up the army commander of that area and I said, this is the predicament, this is the problem we are facing. So he said, we will try to help you as much as we can. Please contact the local officer who is in charge, and he sent me a number on WhatsApp. When I opened my WhatsApp, to my surprise, it was an officer by name Lieutenant Colonel Seema Singh. And Vivekanand was there with me, he knows the story. I called Lieutenant Colonel Seema Singh. So she was already briefed of this matter. She immediately spoke to me and in a high enthusiastic tone. While I was so tensed, disappointed, on the other side I have this lady officer, enthusiastic, speaking with full of life. She's saying, so nice to be talking to you, Mr. Surya. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Seema Singh. I'm the first woman permanent commissioned officer in the Indian Army, the first woman commissioned officer serving in high altitude, and I'm going to be taking care of you. Okay? The story is not yet done. We were all on the road. Vivekanand knows. We were all on the highway. Okay, it's NH1. We had about 200 plus vehicles, all of us on the road, knowing nothing as to where we are going and knowing no idea where we're going to get the food for the night. 5 minutes later, there's a major who comes and he says, Jai Hind sir, Lieutenant Colonel Seema Singh has sent me and we are going to be taking care of you. And then all right, then I went and met her. She said, in clockwork precision, accommodation for 200 people was arranged in the 15 minutes. In the next 20 minutes, I went to meet her because she was our, Annadata, she was our, Ashray Data, everything for the day. So I went to meet her, and most importantly because she was very inspiring. So I went and met her and she told me the story of how she fought in the army, went to Supreme Court. The case that all of you know where the Modi government made the affidavit that women will be given equal preferences in armed forces, it was because of her. She was removed from the armed forces for 2 years. But the 2 years she did not sit back at home. She fought against the whole establishment because she wanted equality. And while she was telling this story, save the applause, while she was telling me this whole story, she was calling couple of units. She said, okay, कितने लोगों का खाना बना सकते हैं आप? Okay, 50 लोगों का. अच्छा, one unit had only so many this things. So she called the other unit. She got the other person done. All of these done in the next 1 hour 45 minutes. Food was done, served hot for 200 people in the accommodations that she had organized. And then, in typical style that only a woman can bring to the table, she said, "Bhai, thoda kheer bhi khilayenge." And she made sure that we all got kheer in the middle of the night. That day I felt, perhaps, if it was not for a lady officer, maybe she would not have understood the pain of our hunger as much as Seema Singh understood. It was only because it was a lady officer that she ensured that all the 200 got accommodation. The women karyakartas who were with us got special accommodation. All of us who were there got hot, piping hot food, kheer served right at our table. This is what a woman representation, woman officer can bring to the table. India is truly changing. India is truly changing, my dear friends. Just yesterday, Nikhat Zareen's interview, you may have seen on ANI. She lost the gold medal. I think she got the bronze. You know what was the first statement she gave? She said, "I want to apologize to the nation because I couldn't win the gold and couldn't ensure the Indian national anthem being played during the ceremony." What struck me most was that attitude. She wanted to win the gold not because she wanted to come back and get Khel Ratna, not because she could come and become brand ambassador for Nike or Adidas, but she wanted to win the gold for India because she wanted the Indian national anthem to be played first. That was the motivation. I will leave you all with only this thought. The next 25 years is an extremely important period in the life of the nation, in the life of all of us. Just this morning I was quoting Sri Aurobindo, writing about Bal Gangadhar Tilak. I want all of you to go and visit Tilakwada. I'm insisting. Tilak was a genius. He was a great mathematician. He was an extremely capable legal scholar. He was a great lawyer. He was a ferocious writer whose writings had the impact of creating revolutions. He had great knowledge on astronomy. If he wanted, he could have amassed the greatest amount of wealth for himself. But all his talents he used for only one objective, only for one aim, that was for Mahabharati. He wrote as a journalist for India. He did the astronomical predictions, etc. for India. He argued cases and made representations for India. He was a great organizer who organized movements, rallies, etc. for India. Every breath of his life he lived for India. My request to all of you is this: the next 25 years, if you are a student of medicine, ensure that every single day, everything that you do with the aim that India will progress and India will succeed. If amongst you, God has blessed any of you with talents to be an extremely capable athlete, be the next Nikhat Zareen and tell that I want to win because I want the national anthem to be played first. The next 25 years, if any of you is blessed with incredible talent of writing, write for India, speak for India, become rich for India, suffer for India. The next 25 years, if we do this, Bharat will be the Vishwaguru of the world. And that we will be able to do. Thank you so much. Wish all of you the very best. This is our nation, it's our future, and we will build this collectively together. Bharat Mata ki! Bharat Mata ki! Nari Shakti ki! Nari, come on yaar, it should be the highest. Nari Shakti ki! Bharat Mata ki! Thank you so much.
अध्यक्ष जी लेट हो गया यार।
थैंक यू, बहुत बहुत आभार तेजस्वी जी, सच में तेजस्वी वक्ता है आप, आपके बहुत आभार। मैं जब अपने ध्वज के प्रति हिस्ट्री ढूंढ रही थी, इतिहास के बारे में सोच रही थी, तो पहला भारतीय ध्वज स्वतंत्रता पूर्व युग में 1904 में अस्तित्व में आया था और स्वामी विवेकानंद जी की शिष्या थी सिस्टर निवेदिता,
Do we have time for interaction or no?
इसे बनाया था।
No
हम
time for
क्वेश्चंस
interaction?
ले आपका सर तेजस्वी जी क्वेश्चंस, 2 क्वेश्चंस।
Yeah, sure.
So anybody would like to ask?
सर वो माइक दे दीजिए।
Because we are lack of time, we will ask only 2 questions.
दे दीजिए।
A very good morning, sir.
Good afternoon. Good evening now.
Good evening.
Sorry, good afternoon. Here I am Alpna. I'm from Modern
It
College.
just shows how fresh you are, maybe. Inspiring speech and all that.
Here I'm Alpna. I'm from Modern College of Art and Science, Commerce, and I'm pursuing SYBSc. Sir, thank you for coming and motivating. We feel so blessed that you come. आपने अपना इतना कीमती टाइम निकाला, आपके पास तो टाइम नहीं था एकदम हमको एकदम इतना मोटिवेट करने को। मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है, सर यू आर एन एडवोकेट, यू आपने अपना पूरा टाइम कोर्ट्स को दिया, बट व्हाई डिड यू जॉइन पॉलिटिक्स? अपने एकदम कोर्ट्स वगैरह में, लेकिन ये पॉलिटिक्स के चक्कर में कैसे, मतलब
I'll try
इट
to
इज अ
be,
बिग डील
yeah,
पॉलिटिक्स।
I'll just be as brief as possible. बचपन से I was introduced to literature of Swami Vivekananda, and I think that's where everything else started. So after reading Swamiji, you realize that you want to lead a life that is much, much bigger than just yourself and your immediate circle of family. And politics just happened. I mean, I never thought that I'm going to be MP. I never thought I'm going to be, MP at 28. None of that. I mean, like, you can't plan these things in life. But one thing that I always knew was I wanted to contribute for 2 causes. One was for Desha and one was Dharma, because that was how these all great men lived. So that was the only ideal, and I started working, and all of these other things happened. But to answer your question in another way, just so that all of you will also know, politics is not a bad word. It's got a bad connotation because of a few bad rotten apples. But friends, remember this. There's a very interesting adage that a saying in English. You may choose to not participate in politics. Okay, let me repeat this. You may choose not to participate in politics, but you cannot choose to not be affected by the outcomes of politics. So my request to you is, you need not be a Yuva Morcha office bearer. You don't have to do what we do every day. Well, if you want to, Yuva Morcha is the best platform. Welcome. But it's your responsibility to support a Shivani, because she is there on the ground trying to make a change. It's your responsibility to be the force behind Vikrant, because he is trying to make a change. So if we are not invested in politics and think, bhai, isse kuch nahi farak padega, I am apolitical. If you're apolitical, then either you should be in China, because there it doesn't matter what your political views are.
No.
Or you should be in a country where it's a banana republic. India is a vibrant democracy. Each of your voice, each of your vote matters. So I request all of you too to be invested in politics, invested in political discourse, because you do not have the choice to be not affected by the outcome of politics. So I wanted to be there in the system and change the system. That was the whole thing. We have time for one question, I guess.
ओके सर, मैं बोलना ये चाहूंगी, हम वेट कर रहे थे, ठीक है कोई आएगा बोलेगा, लेकिन अब समझ में आया अच्छे लोगों के लिए इंतजार करना पड़ता है, और आपके लिए हमने किया।
Next question.
सेकंड क्वेश्चन मैम ये है,
You are a great leader, but then
थैंक यू सर, आपके नाम में भी तेजस्वी और आंसर भी
thank
तेजस्वी
you
था।
so much. Anybody? Pass the mic here. Pass in the middle.
Yeah, right. Acha, middle.
Yes, please.
Hello sir, I am Rodal from Modern College of Physiotherapy. Really your words were very lightning in true sense. As you said about the entire Kashmir incident, I also read that कारगिल विजय दिवस पर युवा मोर्चा ने कश्मीर को पूरा तिरंगामय कर दिया था, तो आप उसके एक्सपीरियंस के बारे में कैसे बताना चाहोगे?
I'll try to be again as brief because this is a very large canvas where we can go on and on. Friends, you must remember this, that throughout our civilization, Kashmir has been an integral part of India. If you read the Shaivism, if you read the history of Hinduism in Kashmir, you will know that Kashmir has been an integral part of India from millennia. But in 1947, for whatever happened, the legacy continued, and Article 370 and 35A, which was inserted into the Indian Constitution against the wishes of a great number of Indian constitutional makers, including Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar, served as a barrier for complete psychological, cultural and constitutional integration of India with Kashmir. Imagine, does it make news if I hoist a tricolor in Pune? Does it make news if I hoist tricolor in Mumbai? It doesn't, because it's considered the normal thing to be done. If not Tiranga, what else is the question? But in Kashmir, from 1952 up to 1992, from 1947, 1952 was, when we got the constitution and all of that. From 1952 to 1992, Tiranga was not hoisted even once. It was in 1992, thanks to the efforts of Murli Manohar Joshi ji, who was the then president of Bharatiya Janata Party, and the general secretary who was in charge of organizing that, who was Narendra Modi ji. In 1992, for the first time at Lal Chowk in Srinagar, Tiranga was hoisted by Narendra Modi in 1992. The terrorists had given an open call saying, "Apne maa ke doodh piya hai, to come here and hoist the national flag and go back safe. Let's see what you will do." Modi ji ne sawal ko le liya. He went, he hoisted the flag. There is a speech of Modi ji delivered in 1992 on YouTube. Go and watch it. After 1992, the whole Lal Chowk area was barricaded. Nobody was allowed to go, etc. Nothing happened. Because again 370 and 35A was the reason. 35A and Article 370 deprived the women of Kashmir of all kinds of rights. From the perspective of women, I want all of you to understand that. If suppose in college there's a guy from Karnataka, you like him and you happen to marry him, is there a law in Maharashtra which says you will not get your share of the property because you married a guy from Karnataka? But imagine, for last 75 years in Kashmir, there was a law which forbade women from in Kashmir marrying any person outside of Kashmir. If a young girl in college liked somebody and wanted to marry somebody who is outside of Kashmir, she would have to forego her rights to property. For 75 years, this was the law of the land which stayed in the Constitution of India. There are multiple such irregularities, anomalies. I won't go into that because of paucity of time. But one thing was Article 370 and 35A ensured that there was a constitutional barrier which did not allow for proper cultural, psychological integration of Kashmir with rest of India. We always wanted to remove 370. But there were political parties, including Congress and other political parties in the valley, PDP, Mahbooba Mufti, Omar Abdul, all of them, who said, if you touch Article 370, if you even think of removing Article 370, rivers of blood will flow in Kashmir. This was the kind of threat they gave. But come 5th of August 2019, Narendra Modi and Amit Shah ji went to Indian Parliament. In matter of 5 minutes, got Article 370 abrogated, done and dusted. Forget rivers of blood flowing. Forget rivers of blood flowing. Not a bullet was fired. That shows political will. So after this, from the Yuva Morcha, we wanted to make a statement Just a few years ago, in 2013, 2012, before Modi ji became PM, the Lal Chowk where we hoisted the Tiranga had Pakistani flags, ISIS flags hoisted there. We had taken it as a matter of pride. It's a matter of, it's a panga that they had taken against us. As the youth of India, if we cannot go to Lal Chowk, erase from memory those images of Pakistani flag and ISIS flags, who else will do it? And if not BJYM, who else will do it? So we went there. There was more than 1,000 tirangas that we did in Lal Chowk. We did two things. First Jan Sabha that happened in Lal Chowk after 1952. 70 years के बाद, 70 साल के बाद पहली बार एक जनसभा हुआ, भारतीय जनता पार्टी का जनसभा हुआ in Lal Chowk in 2022. This was the first thing. Second thing, after 1992, when Modi ji had come and hoisted the flag, there was no Tiranga hoisted at Lal Chowk. 30 years ke baad, thanks to Prime Minister removing Article 370, young people, young karyakartas of the Yuva Morcha like us, we could go there and make the whole Lal Chowk Tiranga mine. This is the message we gave to the rest of the world, that Kashmir हमारा था, हमारा है और हमेशा तक भारत का ही रहेगा. This was the message. Thank you.
Great. We are all stunned and we can only experience what you have said through your speech, sir. This was incredible that what you have done, and salute to you and your team for that. I would now like to call Deepak Pawar to address.
काही सत्कार घ्यायचे प्रदेशाचे पदाधिकारी आहेत त्यांना धनगर समाजाचं जे प्रतीक आहे आपलं वेशभूषा आहे त्या राष्ट्रीय अध्यक्ष पहिल्यांदाच पुण्यात आलेत महाराष्ट्रात आले पण त्यांची वेशभूषा त्यांना भेट म्हणून द्यायची माझी विनंती आहे तेजस्वी आणि विक्रांतजी दोघांनी या भेटचा स्वीकार करायचा आहे सत्कार झाल्यावर राष्ट्रगीत होणार आहे